Welcome to Here's the Deal, where we educate, elevate, and inspire the next generation of entrepreneurs. On Here's the Deal podcast, we tell the real stories of business owners, the challenges, the lessons, and the wins that define their journey. And through Here's the Deal video marketing, we help you share your story with the world, creating high-quality video content that's easy, comfortable, and cost-effective. Because every entrepreneur has a story worth telling. And at Here's the Deal, that's where that story comes to life. All right, everybody, what's going on? Here in this edition of Here's the Deal, we have a subject matter expert we have not covered yet. We're covering, I always talk about business finance and business thing. Today, we're going to talk about personal finances, because obviously that's the other half of the equation. From the business finance side, one thing, but it's what we do with that money from the business going forward. We need coaching on that too. So who better to do that than Bill Haase, my friend, who I was actually just recently on his show. He has a podcast, Garage Talk, and he had me on as a guest, which like I said, thank you for honoring me with that. Like I said, we had a great time. We had a great show. Just two guys just chopping it up, and that's what we do here. Here's the deal too. But so one thing I want to make sure that we cover your book, Our Mindset on Money, and I want to make sure everybody wants to get into business, and because they want to be their own boss, and that's all great, and that's what we encourage. That's what we coach to. But at the same time, what you do with that is a completely different story. So I want to make sure that we cover that aspect of it too, because the business side's only one half of the equation, right?
It is. And, I had a radio show for 4 years where I talked all about how to build a business from concept to success.
Yep.
So I know that angle very well.
Very, very well. But what I liked about you is and I worked, as a financial advisor, I worked for Morgan Stanley and Charles Schwab, but you were actually on the trading floor in Chicago. That's a whole different animal. That's crazy. Yeah, money's moving around at lightning speed over there. I don't know how you guys, that's just bizarre to me. But what did that teach you about the human behavior around money when you're in that thing and you're like, yeah, buy, sell, that's just madness. Like, I don't know.
Well, I got a great dose of human behavior because I was in the world's largest trading pit for 16 years and Eurodollars, and that's 1,500 people. Now imagine 1,500 people all jumping up and down, biting, punching, spitting, kicking, screaming, and making up your own languages and
talking about a mosh pit. Talk about a mosh pit. That's a mosh pit.
But the one thing you really learn about it, people and money are the more you make, the more you become who you are. So if you're a happy person, the more money you make, you're going to be happier and you're going to spread the love. But if you aren't so nice a person and you make money and you start getting that big ego, things can turn ugly. Very ugly.
Exactly.
I've seen people treat other people horribly, and I've seen other people treat folks very, very well.
Right. And I think that's the thing too. If you're miserable on the inside, I don't give a shit how much money you have. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. If you're a miserable person, you're a miserable person. More money's not going to fix that. Okay. More money might make it even worse.
It'll make it worse. It will.
Yeah.
Well, because people with more money have a tendency to think that they're smarter because they have more money, regardless of how they came about it. Earning money means and if you earn money in your own business, you're smart in one area.
Okay.
You're not generally just smarter than everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And we had that great American walkout in 2022. With all the corporate executives, and they all thought they're going to go home, put a shingle out on the front door, and people are going to bang the door down because they're so smart. I was head of global sales for Abbott Labs. And it's like, okay, but that means 1/10 of 1% about certain products and how they're sold around the world. Doesn't mean you know how everything is done.
Right.
Sold.
Right. So so being on the trading floor, what did that teach you about the behavior of people?
You never know what you're going to get. You never know what to expect. It's kind of like, so let's say you own a fast food chain and you don't know when your employees come in, you don't know, are they happy today? Or did they have an argument with their spouse? Did they get kicked out of their house? Are they, ill? You don't know, what to expect from people from a day-to-day advantage, but in the trading pit, so there's golden rules. You don't lie, cheat, or steal, because it happens all the time, but you're not supposed to. But really, because you've got to deal with each other.
Right.
on a day-to-day basis. So while that guy next to you might be your adversary for 7 hours or so a day, I oftentimes with my competitors we'd go out golfing afterwards,
Yeah.
or go out to dinner with our spouses and stuff. But we would fight for clients and everything during the day. I was not
Mm.
a trader; I was a broker on the phones.
Okay.
So I managed a Japanese trading desk, and
Mm.
so I competed with other Japanese folks around the pit, different companies, and I would often steal their clients, and they'd know it, they'd figure it out. And we'd go golfing, and he'd say something to me like, you bastard, you got so and so over in Singapore. I said, I don't know what you're talking about,
That.
but it's obvious because we know just from how much business is being done at a desk, you can tell who's doing what and who's got what clients after a while.
So after spending, decades around money, things like that, what was that moment that just made you realize that people don't really understand money and, the way it works?
Well, after the training pit days, I was going to go into financial advising, thought it was a natural flow, and I didn't like it. It was just pick your pockets of your friends and family and stuff. And I didn't go into it right away. It was about 6 years later that I finally got into financial advising. And the one thing I learned was, it didn't matter how much income a couple had that I'd be speaking to. They didn't know anything about money. And I could sit there and talk all day about, here's what's a good thing for your portfolio. Here's, whether it's an insurance or an investment or an IRA or 401k, whatever it is. And they would sit there and nod their heads up and down. Yeah, I get it. And you're looking at them going, there's no chance in hell you get this. I know you don't get it.
Wow.
And people sometimes I get it. It's perfect. You explained it perfectly. And then they call 2 days later screaming and hollering, what the heck is this all about? And I don't understand. And I'm like,
yeah,
you got it 2 days ago. What happened? Went into the weeds.
Well, like I said, I covered this. I covered this in a post I did in a show. Just because I give you my playbook doesn't mean you can execute it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. You they may have gotten it at that time. It doesn't mean they know how to execute. You can give them, like I said, you got the mindset, on money. You get the book, doesn't mean you know how to execute it. Like I said, that's why maybe they had to come talk to you on more than one occasion. Say, hey, how do we execute that? And understand you don't know, but that's why they hire.
And you've been there. You've been an advisor. You've been there. You've seen it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Those folks deer staring into headlights going, and they're telling you, I get it, because they don't want to feel stupid by asking questions and saying, oh, I don't understand any of this. You're better off saying you don't understand.
Of course.
Get yourself into something you don't know what you're getting into.
Right. And I would, and that like with what I would do, of course, you probably did the same thing. It was like, I'd say, okay, you understand what I'm saying. Explain it back to me. Tell me what. And then they realize, oh shit, now he's calling me out on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. But it's okay.
I had a friend whose wife was a CFO of a big company, and I would look at her and say, hey, Shelley, do you understand what I'm talking about? I know you're kind of listening in the background and everything. She goes, oh no, I don't know anything about money. Like, you're a CFO.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is, so she's a CFO, so she's very good at what she does in her job.
She's very good at cost goods sold, cash flow. So
yeah, but it's not money in real life. That's a very narrow area for her.
Numbers on a sheet, right? She can manage that part.
Right. We don't look at sheets personally, right? We don't do budgets. We don't know where our money goes. We don't know how much we spent.
So let's talk a little bit more about that, because in your book, The Mindset of Money, so you talk more about the mindset of it rather than just the actual numbers. So what's the biggest lie you think people are telling themselves when it comes to money?
That they know all about it. And is one. And two is, all I need to do is make a little bit more money and I'll be fine. Making more money is never the answer. And because you'll learn to spend it and you'll be right back where you were.
Right.
And you'll do it instantly.
Before you even realize it.
Oh yeah. I mean, trust me. How many people out there do you think haven't already spent that bonus money before they even get it? right? I mean, you watch Christmas Vacation, right? Chevy Chase,
Right.
He's built a pool in the backyard. And now he's sweating it out to get that check. That happens to all of us.
Mm-hmm. So what should people's mindset on money be then, if that's not necessarily, obviously not the right way of thinking?
No, I touch more on awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So I ask people, do you live with by default? You live with intent or by default? The reason why I ask that is because it's easier than starting to talk about financial literacy. People love this idea, but they don't want to talk about it because they don't know how to. So living with intent, I know 90% plus of people live financially by default because we've never been taught anything, right? We're never taught in schools. We aren't taught at home. Mom and dad never talk about it. So they're not teaching us. So it's awareness is a very important thing because how you spend your money, what you spend it on, is it a need or is it a want? Can you afford it now, or do you have to do a buy now, pay later deal or a cash app thing to get what you want and go into greater debt and put yourself in more trouble? Because life's going to happen. Last week life happened to me. I got hit with a plumbing problem that went from $100 simple rod out to a $13,000 deal.
Man.
So life happens.
Wow.
And you need to be prepared. I mean, what most people do is they run to their 401k and borrow money to cover that cost. Or they go to the bank and borrow it or something. But again, it's an added pressure on you financially. And it's a burden.
Right. So
be more aware.
How do we switch our mind?
Being aware, so you got to do a budget. Okay, I know everybody hates doing a budget. Nobody wants to do a budget. They hear it all the time, but you're not doing a budget so that you know where every single dollar goes. You're doing a budget so you understand your relationship with money, how you part with it. Are you spending $150 a month at Starbucks? Is that really a wise move? I mean, when you think about it, because every dollar you spend is a dollar less you have in case you need it for something else in the future.
For a plumbing problem.
Maybe you want that piece of jewelry. We most of us buy things because we want to be perceived to look smarter and be wealthier than we are. So we'll spend a lot of money on clothes, on bling, on cars, on houses, neighborhoods we live in, areas, and things like that, because it gives the sense of us being smarter and wealthier than we really are. And we need to get past that. Because I know people that go broke trying to look wealthy.
Keep up with the Joneses, huh?
It's keeping up with the Joneses, exactly.
And I'll tell you, like myself, I admit, when I think about doing my budget, I never really looked at it of why I'm spending the money. I do it like that. Okay, hey, we got to, this, that, and the third, but I never thought about it like perfect. Like I said, be the whole, just being 100% out there. Like I never thought about it like that. This is how I spend my money. It has a reflection on who I am as a person. Like that never really even crossed my mind. But I can tell you, the first thing in my budget right after the income is tithing. So that's number one. That's the first expenditure out of all of them.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you have to look at it from a different angle, from a different view. It's not just numbers. It's real life. And if most people worry every day about their money, whether it's their investments, their income, their bills, they're stressed every day about it. And yet nobody ever does anything to learn more about money so they can relieve that stress. And and to me, that's why the book is called Our Mindset on Money. It's easy to control, so why don't we? And I'm challenging people. I'm telling you, it is easy to control, because I brought that up on another podcast I was on one time, and the gal interviewing me just looked at me and goes, "What? It's easy to control? What are you talking about?" I go, "It is. It's just we have to have the right mindset."
When we were on your podcast, and you had mentioned this earlier, you talk about living with intention rather than by default. Okay. How do we make that shift? Like, I mean, even just you and I having this conversation, like, how I spend my money reflect like, okay, I didn't look at it like that. I've been around, finance for 30 years and I
Yeah.
never thought about it like that. So I appreciate that. So how do we switch that? What's the click that says, okay, we're going to try to be more intentional about that. Like I said, that then the default, like, so
Yeah.
explain how that works.
Well, to be more intentional with money is to question your purchases. Typical thing. You're shopping on Amazon, and all of a sudden you go look in your cart, and you've got 8 items. Well, do you really need all those? Do you really need any of those? Once you start questioning the purchases, like I remember going into a store one time when I was broke, and
Yep.
it was one of my favorite stores, and there was nothing. Or I'm sorry, everything there looked great.
Of
I
course.
was broke. I wanted everything, but I was broke. I couldn't afford anything.
Mm.
A few weeks later, I'm flush with cash. I go back to that store. I look around. I go, nothing really looks all that good. And that was a trigger in my mind. It went off and said, you know what? I was going to impulsively buy all these things because they look great at that time. But 2 weeks later, they don't look so good. And thank God I'm not out of all that money. And so it was a real eye opener for me.
Wow. Again, I'm sitting there, I'm reflecting back, like, I've had those moments. I've had moments where I went and impulsed and went and did it.
We all
Yeah.
do. I'm as guilty as anybody. I've done it. Trust me, I didn't really learn anything about money till I got old.
Yeah.
And even though I've been in the business, I mean, my father used to laugh at me and say, I don't understand why you're in the finance world when money doesn't drive you. You don't have a care in the world about money. And it was true. It was, I never thought about it. Didn't motivate me. It motivates me now to some extent, but
to some extent.
To some extent, it motivates me because I like to work with charities and I like to be able to give and I've got the book out and doing a book the right way is not inexpensive. And,
right. I can imagine.
Starting my global tour next week. So, that's not cheap.
No, definitely not. But here's the thing. I think, like I said, when you have that, epiphany and you said you start using money as more of a tool and things like that, it allows you the freedom to be able to do those different things, like be able to, work with those charities and things like that, because of the fact that you've laid that groundwork of like, okay, here's what I want to do. I want to be more philanthropic. I want to do that, but I can't do that unless the foundation is set.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay. Exactly. And that's when money is more of a tool. Right. And when you use it more effectively, when it's what it's meant to be used for, we don't use a screwdriver to get a lug nut off.
Right. Use the right tool for the right job, things like that. That's one thing I can say this. I've made every mistake with money you can make. And I've also done some things, pretty decently, I think. When I was, when actively a business lender and things like that, everybody's like, I've dealt with a lot of people like, oh, unless it's $1 million job, I'm not going to do it because it only pays this, that, and the third, And I'm sitting there like, well, wait a minute. I personally had a different mentality. Maybe it's because I was always more of a blue collar guy, that wasn't always born with the silver spoon in my mouth. It's like, how many, I would sit there and think like, hey, this person has a dream. How do we make this a reality? How many jobs is this going to create? What's this going to do for our community? I always had more of that mindset. Like, can I help this guy put his kids, through college, put food on his table? And how many people is he going to hire to do the same there? Or how many people is she going to hire and do the exact same thing? She's going to be putting through people's kids through college and putting food on their table and things like that. I took more pride in that side of it than the comp. I wasn't donating my time. Don't get me wrong. I'm a capitalist, but at the same time, it was more like I looked at it from that perspective. Hey, this person has a great idea. How many, like I said, and I would ask them, how many people are you looking to hire within, and you're going to create so many jobs, things like that. Or when I'm driving down the road, I had my kids in the back seat at the time. They were a lot younger. The semi truck would drive by or something like that. I'd be like, hey, Dad, help finance that. Or we drive by a building. Hey, Dad, finance that building. Yeah. Or we're sitting at a restaurant. Dad, help these guys get launched. and things like that, to where I took a lot of pride in that. Kids were like, wow, that's really cool. That to me, that was the job satisfaction, wasn't the money part of it. And,
Right.
money,
And that is very cool. You're helping build your community.
yeah,
You're helping your fellow mankind. I mean, uh, look, if you ask people what they like most about what they do, ultimately the answer will come down to helping people.
you hope.
The difference is
we hope.
right? We do. We all, and obviously some people help more than others, and in different ways and whatnot. But nobody can do anything alone. One of the
No.
biggest problems small business owners have is they're afraid to ask for help.
Yes.
And that's a huge, huge problem for small business owners. It's a killer. It's a business killer.
Definitely. We talk about that on this show a lot. Like I said, if you don't have the people or the processes in place, or you can't delegate, you don't have a business, you have a job. And that's the one thing. If you can't delegate, authority properly to different people to do different, different aspects of the job, that company's never going to grow, and it's never going to succeed. And you're going to lose people left, right, and center, because you're not empowering them. You're not building their skill set,
Exactly.
to that level, so you have to be able to let go in order to grow,
Yeah, Chris, I've interviewed probably over 1,000 business owners
right.
on my days for the show.
Sure.
And I can tell you 99% of them didn't have a business plan written out. And I can tell you that the majority of them have barely ever reached out for help.
Right.
And I'm looking at them and I'm saying, this is why you haven't grown.
Right.
This is why 3 or 4 or 5 years into your business, you're still a one-man band.
Yeah.
A business owner,
Can't do that.
It's been broken down, and I've read the book on this. Joe Rojas wrote the book, and it's a business owner wears about 115 hats throughout his or her career. Now, is anybody taught 115 hats to wear anywhere in life?
No.
So
no, you can't.
Suck up your pride and go ask for some help, and get people.
Absolutely.
I have a whole team, and my team, every single person is dedicated to what I'm trying to do, and they're amazing at what they do.
Yes.
And that's really important. They have to be dedicated to what I'm trying to do, or they're not going to be part of my team.
There you go.
And these people are amazing. They've done incredibly great work, and my book would not be where it is today without a whole bunch of people helping out.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the thing. And it doesn't matter whether it's personal or whether it's business, things like that. You're not going to get anywhere in life, like I said, being a one-man band. I mean, it's impossible. But on top of that, especially being in a business, like I said, especially if you have any, aspirations of, having an exit strategy and selling this company off and things like that. If you're the one running the day-to-day, running the show, making all the decisions, like I said, if I were to try to buy your company and you were doing that,
yeah,
the company is, it might be a $10 million company, but as soon as you leave and I take over and I'm not you, that went from a $10 million company to a $3 million company because of the fact that I'm not you.
Yeah. Well,
absolutely.
I mean? Absolutely. It's, business owners, if you're a business owner, you're listening to this, did you catch what I said earlier when I said the answer to financial stability is not making more money?
Right.
So a business owner should hear that and say, you mean I don't have to pay more? And that's true. I've proven with some other folks out in Denver, going into a business, small, medium-sized business, and providing financial literacy to the employees has increased their health.
Yes.
Happier, more productive. Retention is longer.
Employee retention. I was going to be retention, which is a massive expense in business.
Exactly. And you did it all without giving them a big raise. Mm-hmm. Because they learn how to handle the money they have, and they're happier and healthier and more productive because they're not thinking as much about money.
Correct.
It's that simple. And ironically, employees in the U.S., there was a poll taken, employees expect their employer to teach them financial literacy. Why? I don't know.
I'm about to say, well, somebody's got to teach it. Right. I said, as many mistakes as I made about money, I'm hoping, this this take it has taken so far with my kids. I was like when they were younger, and I'm gonna not plagiarize Dave Ramsey here because I've read his book Smart Money Smart Kids. My kids work on commission. They don't work on they've never gotten an allowance. They work on commission. They know exactly every job in the house and what it's worth. We negotiated the price on, okay, if you vacuum, it's worth this. If you do the dishes, it's worth this. These are all paying jobs. If you work that job, you get paid. If you don't work that job, you want to sleep in, you want to, go hang out with your friends, go play basketball. Okay, cool, whatever. But you're going to lose that money. I'm not paying you.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you, if washing your car it pays the most, you're going to have the cleanest car in the neighborhood.
Damn right.
And vacuuming pays the least, you're going to have a lot of dust buddies.
That's right. But on top of that, like I said, I distinctly remember this. Like I said, my daughter, she was smaller, she was younger. She went with me to the store, and we're in the checkout aisle. They have all the candies and all stuff like that at the checkout aisle. She grabs a Snickers bar, she puts it on the conveyor belt. I told her, I said, that's coming out of your money when we get home, right? She picked it up, put it back.
Good for her.
Good for her. So I think if it going back to what you were saying,
awareness, that's intentional.
I would say going back to your earlier comment about being intentional about money and being intentional, like the shiny thing, having those 8 products in your Amazon cart. She had that moment where, do I really need that? Or I'm like, okay, wait. She was great. She was totally willing to spend my money. She was like, absolutely, yeah, yeah.
Well, most kids don't have a good parent like you. Most kids, until they get out of college, all their needs are taken care of. Yeah. So the only thing left are wants. So we spend the first 22 years of our lives only going after our wants.
Yeah.
Bad lesson to learn. Because then you get out of college, you go into the real world, and it slaps you in the face and says, guess what? You got a lot of needs now. And
here's the reality.
Good luck. It's going to be 10 years before you see that.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm very proud of my kids to where, like I said, they're conscientious about that. And like going back to what you were saying, my parents and we didn't talk about money. We didn't, have those discussions. Going back to everything you were saying before, that's where I was like, okay, I want to make sure my kids are at a different level to where, even like I said, when both my cars were paid for, and I said, okay, if you want this car when you're 16 years old, here the strike price is $2,000. Okay. And I started them driving when they were like 13. I was like, okay, so 13. I think my son was 13, my daughter was 14. I started them driving around the neighborhood. We started doing driving lessons. And I said, okay, if you want this car when you turn 16, the strike price is $2,000. Here's a list of all the jobs and all the money. So we'd have a monthly budget meeting. Okay, if you wanted the keys when you turn 16 on your 16th birthday, if you want the keys, here's how much money you have to make every month to pay this car off by the time you're 16. And they both did it. My son did it early because he had a year sooner. I started him at 13. She was 14. So, but at the same time, they both, but my son's a little money miser. He won't spend a damn nickel. He will worry. He'll find that most expensive, like you said, if washing the car is the highest pay, he'll do that job first, and he'll wake up early to do it just to cut his sister off.
Well, that's good competition. That's healthy, good competition. And a lot of kids that, they earn, maybe they get an allowance or they earn, $500-$600, and then they want to go buy that PlayStation game, and it's going to cost $400. And it's like, they second guess it because all of a sudden it's like, oh, that took me a long time to get the $600, and I'm going to spend 2/3 of it in a second.
Right.
And then I only have $200 left in case I want something else. And
right.
That's just a good mindset to start bringing to these kids. And your kids are going to be way ahead of the curve as they grow up, because it's the lack of knowledge of money is what gives marketing people free and clear. We're going to come after you. We're going to make you look this way and hit you that way. They manipulate us to death because they know we don't know any better.
Right. Got to get that new pair of Jordans or LeBrons or whatever.
The fall color. I know last year it was this color, but this year fall color is going to be this color, so now you need a whole new set of clothes.
Yeah.
for the fall. Yeah.
Oh.
And we'll do that each season. You know,
Hence, that's why we're a lot of gray and black. It's
do you
always
really,
in season.
do you really need $200 pair of sneakers? Or can you get the $40, $50 pair of Adidas? You know,
Yeah. Whatever.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
Certain things are worth spending the money for, but then certain things
yeah,
are like, okay, yeah, like, hey, you know,
true.
but then again, like I said, if it's within your budget, you know, then you can afford it. There's a difference between being, what was the saying? You just because you can make the payment doesn't mean you can afford it.
Well, true. Very true.
Right. Yeah.
Very true.
I can't remember where I
mean,
got
look,
that from.
you go to buy a car, the first thing they ask you, how much are you looking to spend? And he's not asking you 60,000. He's asking you per month. Right.
Right.
And you're like, well, I'm at 300. Somehow you walk out of there paying $375 or $400 and you justify come up with an extra $7,500 a month. But what you don't understand is that's every month that you don't have that money for something else for
Right.
what, 60 months or
Yeah.
longer?
Correct.
It's a major, when you start looking at things that way, it starts making you aware and you start questioning, all right, maybe this isn't right. You know, but that card looks so good on me, and it fits so well. And
yeah,
I
the
love the
seats are
color,
this
and
and that. Oh yeah,
got all the bells
absolutely.
and whistles, and
Mm-hmm.
you go to buy a house. I can afford 250. I was approved for 250,000, and a realtor shows you a $325,000 home. Now they're doing it for good reasons. They're trying to say, here's, you're not going to get this for 250,000. But I want you to get an idea. And then people look at a $250,000 home and they just go, yuck. It's just, there's nothing here that I want. That other house has everything I want.
Right.
And you might go buy that other house for another $75,000 that you said you didn't want to spend. But I see this all the time.
Yeah. Yep. So let's talk about the book a little bit more. Like I said, the mindset. You said you're going on a world tour. Like I said, tell me where you're going. Tell me how people get a hold of the book, and let's talk about that a little more.
Thank you. Yeah, I leave next Thursday for Sydney, Australia. Australia is I'm told this is going to go over big in Australia because nobody understands mindset on money.
Really?
When they get into financial trouble, workers in the country, they're accustomed to the government buying them out, paying them out.
Oh, wow.
So, and helping them out. So they get to a certain amount of pain and threshold, and then the government comes in and helps out. So they never think about money and a mindset on money. So I'm told that this will really blow their minds. And I hope so, because this is just the first of 3 trips we'll be doing to Australia this year.
Wow.
So back in June, we'll head to Nauru, a little island 1,500 miles northeast of there, meeting with the president there, heading on to New Zealand in June as well, and then back to Oahu to work with military, to those transitioning to civilian life. Their 2 biggest fears are, what to expect, and financially what's going to happen. So I have a friend of mine that travels with me. He's written the book on what to expect. And so we ham and egg it there. And then in the fall, we'll go back to Sydney for a national speaking event in their country. And then we'll head over to Europe for a little bit. So still working on.
We're going to go in Europe.
Well, okay, we're talking to Spain, Germany, UK right now. So, but there may be more.
Cool. And how do people get a hold of your book, man?
Well, you can look it up. Our Mindset on Money by Bill Haase on Amazon. It's all over there, and Barnes and Noble and all that. You can go to moneymindsetmedia.com. If you want an easy one, go to billhaase.com, BILLHAASE.com, and it'll redirect you to my website. And then you can see my podcast. You can see the book. You can see reports that I write. I talk about affordability and what that really means. And different things that are going on in today's world, financially, economically. So it just kind of keep us in the loop. So, teach you, little things like putting $100 in a bank this year, and you have, a cost of living increase of 5%. Well, next year that $100 is only worth $95.
Right.
It might still say $100 in the bank, but it has $95 worth of buying power.
Correct.
So, things like that.
Cool, man. Well, I say, any last words, parting shots, before we wrap it up?
No, just you have to want to do this, right? Like anything else, you have to want to do it. But I guarantee you, if my book's 116 pages long, you can read it in an hour and a half, and it's filled with life-altering and changing events for you, and ideas and thoughts. And you know what? If you can't spend an hour and a half of your life to make the rest of your life better, God bless you. And I wish you the best. But you're going to be living a stressful life. I guarantee you.
Wow.
Because nobody gets through life unscathed.
You got that right. You got that right. Well, I said, I appreciate it, like I said, because even like I said, you've even triggered me a little bit, like, wait a minute. Good. How I spend my money reflects on who I am. Like, okay, I'm gonna have to go back in my budget. Like, okay, what I'm gonna look at that like a whole different like thing. You're like, hold on a second. Let me analyze that a little bit better.
You're gonna get rid of that Porsche.
I bought an Acura, not a Porsche. Okay, so.
There you go. There you go. Perfect.
I didn't buy the Beamer. I bought the Acura. Okay,
yeah,
so we're
yeah. It's funny.
And that's all because I got rear-ended, because I would have kept my car if I didn't get freaking rear-ended. So,
well, there's another life happens event, right? That costs you money.
Yep.
You had to get
I had no intention of buying a new car, none, because my car ran perfectly fine. I haven't had a car payment in 10 years, and I'm sitting there like. And now, like I said, I'm just waiting for the lawsuit coming. I'm gonna pay this sucker off, as soon as like well. I got rear-ended. I got rear-ended a little while ago. So, like I said, that was my thing too. It's like, okay, I didn't go out and buy a $70,000 brand new car. It's like, no, I bought a car. Like, I'm pretty sure. I don't know what I'm going to get in the lawsuit, but I'm pretty sure when I get the lawsuit money, this car will be paid off. And then, and
well, until you get that lawsuit money, just keep playing the lottery.
Yeah.
Because that's most people's backup plan for retirement.
Oh my God! So, yeah, don't even get me started on that. But yeah, like I said, but that's one thing I said. I greatly appreciate even just coming out, because again, I talk to business owners all the time, like you have, and we're talking about cash flow, we're talking about profitability, and this and that and the third, but at the same time, that money, like I said, when you, and again, to business owners, pay yourself a salary. Don't take the owner's draw. I know you don't have to pay the taxes on it, but I can go into a whole other show about that. So
we can do a lot of things with business and finances.
Correct. Sure. So when you pay yourself that salary, which you should do, you should be the first person on your own payroll. Pay yourself that salary. Remember, now that money's in your pocket, not in the business pocket. Okay, now let's adjust our mindset on what that money's going to do.
Yeah, exactly. Good stuff.
Well, Bill, thanks for taking the time to be on my show. Thanks for letting me come on your show,
I appreciate it.
As well. And like I said, buy the book, our mindset on money. Buy that book. Like I said, I'm gonna go buy it right now, because like I said, if I only got that from talking for a couple minutes, okay, what else is in that book that I probably need?
It's loaded. It's loaded with information, and it's short. It's to the point. There's stories, personal stories of my own losses, my own mistakes, and such. And even though I've been in the finance for 40 years, I've made some big mistakes too.
Same. Same.
So it just helps. The book is really a conversation between me and the reader.
Awesome.
It's just what you can expect in life and how to deal with it.
And if you can make one less mistake than we did, then there you go.
You could be driving that Porsche.
Yeah, you could be. All right, Bill, man. Thanks again for taking the time. Congratulations on the book. Congratulations on the world tour. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Going out on a world tour. And make sure, like I said, while you're in Australia, New Zealand, and everywhere else you're going, take that phone out, do a little short video reel, and make sure that we're posting it out there, because like I said, those are the moments, man.
Thank you for reminding me to do that. I always forget.
Hey, here's the deal. That's what we do, man.
Here's the deal. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Chris, I really do.
All right, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Here, in closing up the show, and here's the deal. Just want to give all honor, glory, and praise to my Lord Jesus Christ, who, saved my soul and gives me the ability to do this show. Without him, I couldn't do anything. Also want to give thanks to my family, my wife, my kids support me doing this and, backing me up. I couldn't do any of this without them also. Got to thank the sponsors, of course, everybody that, supports the show. And of course, the fans, the people that subscribe to the show. I wouldn't do any of this without you because it wouldn't be a show. So just want to say thank you all very much. Continue to, educate and elevate, get out there, pursue your passions, pursue your dreams.